Hello and welcome to Eastern Horizon. This is Malik Ayub Sumbul. We are live streaming on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Iran Islamic Revolutionary Guard says that the retaliations, measures, and the strikes has been made on the U.S. bases that are stationed in Kuwait, Bahrain, Jordan, and other Gulf countries. So once again, the United States and Iran's back to the head-to-head strikes. Both sides cast. And accuse each other of the retaliation and the aggressive strikes. So to discuss this, I have joined by Abdul Ghani Al-Irani. He is a senior researcher fellow at the Sana Center for the Strategical Studies in Yemen. He's currently joining us from Egypt. Thank you very much, Abdul Ghani Irani.
Thank you for having me, Malik.
So what's going on right now in that the Gulf and Iran? That once again we saw that both sides have been accusing each other, and I think that the United States striked again. There was the retaliation measures made by the Iran. So how you see this?
I believe that Iran and the US really want to have this war come to an end. But of course, Netanyahu doesn't want that. The current cycle of violence was triggered by the downing of Apache helicopter by Iran in the Gulf of Oman a couple of days ago. The Iranians at first denied that, denied responsibility, but then acknowledged that it wasn't intended, meaning that some spoiler from their side or from the side of Israel have triggered this cycle of violence, which is now threatening the possibility of a peace agreement.
So, mean that what precedent is going to be set? Because it seems like this that though they have agreed on the ceasefire, there were a lot of announcements are there, but Trump's statements. So after this statement, he again said that he will stop the strike. So what exactly this gave the hint? Is this exactly that to misguide the media, to misguide the world, but behind the scene there is something else going on? How you describe this?
I haven't heard a single expert successfully explain why Trump speaks this way. He sends all kinds of conflicting messages, and you don't know what he really intends and what he really means. So I stopped trying to explain what he says. However, he has a clear interest in bringing this conflict to an end because it is hurting the Republican Party internally, domestically, which is now going to go to the midterm elections in November. And if he does not stop the fighting and bring down the price of gasoline in the U.S., the consequences will be bad for the Republican Party, and of course, by extension, for him, because he has put himself in a position where if the Democrats achieve majority in both houses of Parliament of the Congress, they will impeach him. But I guess he felt that he needs to respond to the downing of the Apache and was quick to say that we've stopped the attack. So hopefully things will calm down. But the spoilers are still there. And don't be surprised if another incident like this, whether it's by extremists, by militants in the Iranian side, or a false flag operation by Israel.
So recently there was differences emerged as reported by the media that Netanyahu and Trump, because Trump said that the Netanyahu has no other option but to accept the peace deal. So how much do you think that Israel and the US is on one page, or this is a strategy by the United States that, okay, let's have the differences and keep the mission going on? So how do you think?
Well, as you know, the reason the U.S. started attacking Iran is because of Israeli pressure. And Marco Rubio said we attacked Iran because the Israelis were going to attack Iran, and that Iran was likely to retaliate against us. So we thought we'd start the attack. This is clear confession that they are doing this for Israeli interest. Uh, Netanyahu, as you know, is facing a trial if the fighting stops. Corruption charges have been hanging on his above him for years now. So the only way he can escape prison is if he stays in power as prime minister. The only way to win the elections in October, the Israeli elections in October, is if he is still fighting, because the Israelis turned to rally around the flag during wartime, and they're not going to dismiss the prime minister who is leading them in battle. So he is doing everything to make sure the war continues until he gets re-elected as prime minister. That is the first time that there was clear uh, conflict of interests between Trump and Netanyahu, and we are now waiting to see if Trump can actually decide independently of Netanyahu.
So after many days, we saw after several weeks, but I think that we saw that the after this Israeli strikes on Lebanon, Iran directly strikes on Israel. So mean that what is the message that Iran gives, and why mean that Iran strikes Lebanon? Is this to keep active this conflict, or mean that what actually Netanyahu wants? Because if he is continuously doing this, and I think that the Lebanon is one of those points in which Iran Iran said that if they will not stop bombing on Lebanon, there will be no peace deal. So whenever there is some maturity, or when there were something coming up that there will be a peace deal, we saw that Israel strikes on Lebanon, and then again things, all fronts start open. So do you think that Israel is really not going to accept this deal?
Uh, Let me explain one thing to make it clear to the viewers. Iranian strategic defense plans are based on having an axis of allies. They call it the axis of resistance, which is groups that are allied with Iran and Yemen, the Houthis, and Iraq, Al Hasht, and it used to be Syria, but Syria is now out, and Hezbollah and Lebanon. And in the beginning of the negotiation in Karachi, as you know, the agreement was that ceasefire will include Lebanon. However, the Israelis did not abide by it, and while the Americans at first acknowledged that Lebanon was included in the agreement, they retract when basically at the wishes of Israel, and announced that they did not consider Lebanon to be included in the ceasefire. Uh, Iran has been trying to get the US and Israel to abide by the original agreement of ceasefire in Karachi, and they haven't. So they eventually, the Iranians started bombing Israel. Of course, Israel is making a mess in Lebanon. They have destroyed most of the towns and villages in the south, and they are now attacking the capital, Beirut. They attacked the southern suburb of Beirut, Al-Lahia, with the intention of destroying everything. They have displaced 1 million people. They have killed thousands and thousands of civilians. And the intention, according to their statements, is to have a security zone south of the Litani River, but they are now going way behind Litani, and they don't seem they seem to be raising the tensions in Lebanon to keep the war going to serve Netanyahu's election interests.
Hmm. So, do you think that any retaliation or reaction from the Lebanon, from the Hezbollah, or from other groups can be a very serious pain for Israel?
Hezbollah, of course, lost a lot of their bases, their missiles, their positions. So it's not easy for them to be a sufficient deterrent to Israeli advance. But they have been causing some casualties, something like 30 deaths per month, and maybe a couple hundred injured, 400 injured. That's what the last statistic I have come across. That is not going to stop the Israelis from advancing further into Lebanon. The only way they would stop is by Iranian missiles.
So Donald Trump also mentioned that the Iranians have less pile of the missiles. He said this many times that Iran has left the less mean that the storage capacity or the missiles and the drones. So how you see this statement? And I would like to ask your analysis about this. That is this the US strategy that is mean that to cool down the things and then again start cool down the things? So this is a way to prolong something. How you analyze?
Of course, Iran has been preparing for long war, so they're being very economical with their missiles and drones. Uh, to say that their stock has been depleted is, of course, when you fight, there will be a depletion on both sides. Also, the interceptors on the Israeli side and the American side have also been depleted. But we have to take into account that Iran has been very strategic. They use the oldest missiles and drones to exhaust the interceptors and the Israeli and the American sides. Now they are using their most sophisticated missiles and drones, which are much harder to intercept. So they are causing damage, significant damage, every time they attack Israel.
Hmm. So this prolonged war the US used, I think that how you compare it with the Iraq war, because I think that the similar kind of the patterns and the trends at that time was followed. So how you compare the US war on Iraq and now the US war on Iran? So they are using the same strategy, or they have some other change in their policies?
Uh, I think both the main feature that of both wars is that they demonstrate the breakdown of the U.S. State system uh, because of ideology or personal interest. In the war against Iraq, Dick Cheney and Wolfowitz and their kind uh, were intent on fighting a war that virtually all American Iraq experts recommended against. And the way to deal with that was uh, they basically sidelined the State Department with all its expertise and most of the Pentagon with all its expertise, and conducted a war without the benefit of the institutional capacity of the United States government. And of course, that led to a series of errors that caused defeat of the United States in Iraq. They're doing the exact same thing now. This time, it's not the American side that is ideological, dogmatic. It's the Israelis, and Trump, his compliance with Netanyahu, and of course his we know his narcissist streak. He believed that he could make a quick win and become a great hero. They went to war that most American experts thought was a very bad idea and recommended against, including in the Pentagon and the State Department. And we are seeing the exact same failure that we saw in Iraq. With the difference that this failure is going to cost America much, much more than the Iraq War. The Iraq War cost America in terms of lives lost and treasure, but this war is going to cost America its standing as the world superpower, and I think that it is going to be a pivotal moment in the history of the United States, where it begins to recede, becomes one of many power centers around the world.
So a few days back, Donald Trump mentioned that there was no need to call back the U.S. Troops stationed in the Gulf countries and the Middle East, and now again we saw that there was strikes on the U.S. bases in Kuwait, in Jordan, in Bahrain. So the message and the especially the I mean that the hegemonic control of the United States into the Middle East, because their bases were a symbol of the hegemony and a power into the Middle East. So now I think that their base is not safe, because the US actually ignited this war. So what message is this, that the US bases are being strike? What exactly this message back sounds in Washington?
Well, a lot of experts in Washington are beginning to wonder whether it's useful to have 700 plus bases around the world, which is completely insane in my view, and it serves only the war machine, the military-industrial complex, not the strategic interest of the United States. Uh, they're also wondering whether having uh, uh, aircraft carrier groups is a wise thing given the changes in technology. As you know, they have 13 uh, aircraft carriers. China has one, and most other countries have one or two, the major powers. And but they are sitting ducks. That's why they had to stay thousands of miles away from Iran. So basically, the strategic power projection capacity of the US is now being compromised, and they cannot act as the great hegemon that they did in the 90s and the 2000s.
Hmm. So Iran once again, I mean, that closed after this fresh strikes the state of the Hormuz. So how you think that impact could be, especially on the economy? Do you think that it will have some more severe impacts? Because a lot of people are saying that the current scenario and the deadlock may lead to more severe blockage. So how you see the impact overall, especially on the world economy?
Well, people, maybe some people do not realize that while the oil prices are stable somewhat, even declining at times, that there is another process that they should be paying attention to, which is the depletion of the global reserves. Uh, Now, you can make up for the reduction of exports from the Gulf region by drawing on US, Chinese, and other national oil reserves. But in the US, they have reached the critical point where they may have to stop drawing on their reserves, and then the impact of the shortage in production will suddenly become very stark, and prices will go very high. So, in other words, Trump, while fighting to make to reach an agreement, He is not only worrying about the elections in November, he is worrying about something that will happen much, much earlier, which is the depletion of the oil reserves of the United States.
Mhm. So, my last question to you is this: that do you think that any major breakthrough would be expected before the election, U.S. election, midterm election between the United States and Iran?
Everything points to that direction. The only obstacle in the way of reaching an agreement is actually the miscalculation by the two sides of raising the ceiling too much. Iran may overplay its hand and demand too much, which could have dire consequences on Iran. If they push the US to the point where they have no choice but to strike again as hard as they have threatened that what they would, I think Iran will lose. And that would be a loss not just to Iran but to the entire region, because Iran intends on retaliating on U.S. allies in the region. The other obstacle is false flag operations by the Mossad and the Israelis, which could uh, let's say, derail the negotiations. Other than that, they should, within a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, a month maybe, they should reach an agreement.
Thank you very much, Abdul Ghani Al Irani, here, who joined me from Egypt. He is a researcher at the Sana Center for Strategical Studies in Yemen. I really appreciate your insight. So you were watching Eastern Horizon live streaming. We were streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and X. You can follow us, our Twitter account, follow us on Facebook, and subscribe. YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching. We will come up with some other interesting topic on the geopolitics and international relation. For now, thank you very much and have a nice time.